couple of things before we finish off. I wanted to go through and do some ranking for some players. So
Right.
this is what Chrome was talking about this past week. There was like top 5 SMGs, that is a question, and then top 5 assault rifles. So I guess we'll start with the SMGs. There's a couple that I think are like, I would say are pretty much set in stone, that being aBeZy, Simp, and Shotzzy, at least as of
Yeah.
recent performances. And I guess this is SMG players in the game right now, we can do it as opposed to of the season. But I mean, I'm open for discussion on that one. And then there's a couple others, right? But there's like a load of players you could throw in here. Like I think Scump's probably just on the horizons of it. I think that I think I would throw in Cleanix. I think he's very valuable to Ultra.
Yep.
You've got HYDra to think about, who probably deserves a spot in there given how well he's been playing. So
Neptune's been playing good,
exactly,
really good.
I think that's my top 5. But then you've got Neptune, you've got Standy, you've got Asim. I know your thoughts, Lion.
Should I go from 5 to 1?
Go on then.
I'm just pulling up some stats. Hold on. So at 5, yeah, I'd put HYDra and Asim is difficult because Asim seems to be more of, well, HYDra seems to be the X factor. Asim seems to be just a brilliant player in general. It's hard between those two because they're very similar, and we didn't get to see Asim at the major. So for that, I'm going to put HYDra 5. 4, hold on, Cleanix. 3, Shotzzy. 2, Simp. 1, aBeZy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would have basically the same thing, but I might swap Simp and aBeZy. It's a hot take. I feel like people always have this discussion. I see loads of discussions, and people, I don't know, there's people out there that are like the aBeZy, not the aBeZy stands per se, but like they will always say that like aBeZy, because he has a harder role, is like better at that role than Simp is at his role, which is, I think, a perfectly reasonable take. Like it's tough to deny that, but at the same time, like I don't think Simp sees the game on another level. Like aBeZy makes mistakes sometimes. His gun skill is outrageous, but aBeZy will sometimes overchal and make mistakes. Whereas to me, there's like a player. If there's a player in the game that makes like very few, if any, mistakes at all, it's Simp. So that's. I think you can make the discussion either way, but
but think about the fact that aBeZy's an entry sub, and for the last stage, he had a 1.13 in hardpoint, a 1.18 in S&D, and a 1.15 in control. Like as an entry, I think he's probably one of 3 like entry subs this year that has a positive KD, and that like is crazy because people compare like ARs and SMGs, and it's like you can't do that because as an AR you should be putting up at least a 1.1 to be successful, whereas he's putting up nearly 1.2s when he should be dropping a 0.9. Like that's ridiculous. And so should we move on to ARs?
I think that's a fair to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, ARs. So this is maybe harder in a way because I don't think it's incredibly clear what the top one should be in the same way as it is with the SMGs. Like there's a few to throw in. Like I guess we can consider the flex players that mainly use AR, like Cellium, for example. Like I think you've got to consider Cellium in here, even though he's not like the main AR or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think people have been throwing in like Cammy, I mean, Crimsix basically says Cammy is the best, like straight up, which I was kind of surprised by, but I guess is understandable, right? He's been out of control. I think that Cellium's got to be right up there. In terms of like main ARs, you're looking at, I mean, Crimsix wanted to throw himself in there, at least on performances at the major, maybe somewhat tough to do so, but you know, at least at the major, he played pretty well. You could maybe put him on present form. Like I think that you wouldn't be out of your mind to do so by any means. I think Crim played great at the major. Like Arcitys, of course, deserves a mention, but doesn't really have to do too much. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that line? I need to get these players up, to be honest.
Yeah, I need to take a look, but if I was gonna include flexes, take a look. Probably Octane. Octane, you can't. It's impossible to really tell because his team does a little bit less on the map than some other teams, and so he gets kind of fed more kills than someone like Arcitys. But I'd probably put Octane 5.
It's a hot take to me. I think putting Octane 5 is a hot take.
Yeah. Okay. Let me swap that around. I'm gonna put Wake 5.
Oh my god! Yeah, Waking, of course.
Wake 5, Octane 4. 3 Insight, 2 Cell, 1 Cammy. Cammy's been playing amazing, and if we look at his stats on the last stage, he had, I think, in hardpoint, he had the most damage per 10 minutes with like 4,900, which is crazy. And then he had a 1.18 hardpoint, 1.15 S&D, and 1.1 in control. And yeah, and then when you look at his team, like Insight's got a 1.13, a 1.12, and then a 1.32 in control, and it's like these guys are crazy. And it seems like, you know how you mentioned most teams, the SMGs are the standout, and so that's how good they are. It seems like on this team it's reversed. It's how good their AIs are, and then they have two incredible SMGs that can just do a lot of the dirty work. And like it's a little bit different with this team because how Austin was saying earlier, you need to have the 1 and the 2. It's the entry sub and then the more methodical moving around the map SMG. It seems like they just have 2 SMGs that play in tandem and can like take over maps, and then have these 2 ARs that can just lock it down and just play their role perfectly. But yeah, so yeah, Cammy number 1. I think that's pretty much unanimous at this point. He's been playing amazing all year, and even last year when he came in on Toronto and they won a homestand, like yeah, Cammy number 1. I think it's pretty clear. But
yeah,
Arcitys,
I agree.
Hard to know because he drops great KD, but it's like there aren't enough kills on the map for him to, you know, really show off how good he is. And he messaged me after I did the cards, and he said, hold on. He said, hold on. He said, I'm kill whoring. It's all your fault if I lose. And I said, lol, I want to see that. And he said, laugh my ass off. My boys are roasting me. But it's like, it's the same with Major Maniac last year on Atlanta FaZe. It's the SMGs are so good that there isn't much left for him to pick up. And so they just have to play their role correctly, and that doesn't show on the scoreboard. But yeah, I think he does have an easier role than someone like Octane, who has to pick up so much for his team to be able to win.
I agree for sure. Like, it's clear that Arcitys is such a great piece in that team in terms of what he brings to the squad in general and the experience he has with them. But like, you could probably replace him with a lot of ARs and they would get very similar results, right? That's just how it is right now. So that's kind of why it's tough to know where to put Arcitys here. I agree with the top of your list. I think Cammy, I think Cell. The bottom is so tough, right? Because I think the Insight deserves a spot here because he's been so good. Like, I think maybe 4th. I don't really know. Like, statistically, Dashy has actually been phenomenal. But I don't know if I don't know if I can put him.
He's
like,
always had
results.
He's got this different level of like expectation from the fans because of his first season on a top team in OpTic and Black Ops 4. He had like a 1.3 for the whole season, and they still weren't super successful. And so like I feel the expectation for him to be considered amongst the top players is to drop those like BO4 numbers, which is a little bit unfortunate because he has been playing great, but it's coincides with the fact that they haven't been winning.
Yeah, this is the thing to me. It's like, even with Crimsix, I can make a good case that he's, at least as of right now, like a top 5 player because he played great and his team was game 9 with FaZe to win, right? Whereas with Dashy, like, he makes great numbers, no doubt, but until they can prove that they can actually compete for championships, it's like, what is that converting into? Which makes it tough to rate, to put him on the top 5. I think that one that I'd like to put there would be Clayster for the whole season. I think that I might put him as 5th because he was really, really good at the start. And he was especially good at stage 3 when they made the final. So I think that Clayster, the entire season, might deserve a spot there. Yeah, outside of that, it's kind of tough. But yeah, I mean,
I was going to make a sports reference for Dashy. You don't watch basketball, I don't think.
Not really, but I know some of the names.
I don't think you'll know this one. So Dashy reminds me of a player called Bradley Beal, who's on the Washington Wizards. It's a player who drops like crazy points. He's an amazing player, but his team stuck around like 8th, 9th in the seeding. And so it's like you can't really judge him as a top player because these other teams that have players dropping similar numbers are winning and being like top teams in the playoffs. And then there's, you know, this 8th, 9th team that isn't that good, but he's dominating. And it's like, that's how he feels to me lately. But if he was on the right situation, he could be that top player on a top team.
Yeah, tough. I guess I agree. Similar things with Formal, right? Like, people have thrown Formal in the conversation, and understandably, like, clearly his communication from what we've seen has been fantastic, but it's like, until the results are there and the stats, then it's tough to argue. Yeah, I think that was a great discussion.